All right, a very good morning to you. My name is Khiba, the editor-in-chief of Central News. Today or this morning, we are speaking to the founder of ActionSA. He's also the president of ActionSA. We also know him for being a co-founder of Black Like Me. Mr. Herman Mashaba launched a manifesto of his party earlier this month of December. So today he's speaking to us about some of the key highlights of that manifesto. Mr. Mashaba, welcome to Central News, and thank you so much for speaking to us this morning.
Thank you so much, Days and your team, for giving me this great opportunity.
All right. You have joined many political parties who have spoken about their manifesto in relation to the 2024 general elections that are coming next year. Why should South Africa believe what you presented to them, and what is it that you have presented to them?
No, well, I think there's, the beauty of being or living in a democratic dispensation is the fact that anyone has got the right to start your own political parties. You have a right to really go out there and if you want to serve society, or you want to stay outside, or you feel politics is not for you. That's the beauty of democracy. But I think I'd like to send a message to those who have opted to stay out of politics, for them to accept that whether they like it or not, politics are going to have interest in them. And because one thing, if you study democratic, successful ones are succeeding, and they keep on succeeding because people take interest in politics. Because if you don't take interest in politics, politics will take interest in you. For us as ActionSA, we are a party 3 years old, launched on the 29th of August 2020, right in the middle of COVID, then participated in local government elections in 2021, contesting in 6 municipalities. Now we are ready for 2024, all important provincial and national elections. The whole of 22, we focus on putting structures in place, getting provincial structures. So we, as I speak to you, we've got all 9 provincial chairpersons. As I'm talking to you right now, there's a ActionSA branch opening somewhere in the country. Obviously, 2 weeks ago in Haramutsi, the village where I was born, the team decided to really go and launch our 2024 campaign at this village. And what are the things that you said we are asking South Africans to look at? First of all, it is actually the rule of law. If you want to destroy a country, destroy the rule of law. And that's something that, which is really quite hating, is that South Africa today, we're worse than Mexico. We are the most violent society on earth. We are the most corrupt society on earth. These are issues where we are saying we've got to really deal with them. But we deal with them by putting together a professional public service. You will need ethical leadership to really drive the political project, because obviously as a political party, your role is to set the scene and come out with policies that must talk to the lived experiences of people. And then from there, then you put a professional public service that must serve the policies of that particular political party. That is what we are saying. What we as ActionSA, we're saying corruption must be public enemy number 1. Those involved in corruption must be put in jail. We have to have specialized units that must deal with corruption, like what we had in the past, the Scorpions, whether we're going to call it the Scorpions or whatever name. But we need that independent, specialized units that must deal with question of corruption. And we believe as ActionSA that the head of this particular unit must not really be appointed by the president of the country. Well, let's find a mechanism where the head of this unit must have the independence to be able to prosecute without any fear or favor. I think as things that honestly they need constitutional amendments. As much as we are saying as South Africans we're proud of our constitution, which absolutely yes, but like anything else in life, it needs to be adopted. Our constitution was based on Nelson Mandela, but unfortunately, right now we are governed by criminals, and this constitution is protecting them. You can imagine we have a president that puts money under mattress, and he's the one who must decide whether the SIU must prosecute the case or not. Or you have someone who commits rape, and you expect the president is the one who must decide who must prosecute. So the head of this unit must have political independence for them to serve society, not to really serve political their masters. For us, with South Africa being the murder capital of the world, we are unapologetic. Actually, for me, I felt that we needed the capital punishment to be able to deal with the high levels of crime. But obviously, I think I lost the argument. Our teams put together a more viable proposition to say, look, Herman, if we bring the death penalty, we're going to end up only killing poor people who do not have legal representation and so forth. So what you are saying as ActionSA, no more parole for heinous crimes like first-degree murderers. There's corrupt people. If you are sentenced to 15 or 25 years, you're going to serve up to the last day. All these people, international drug syndicates bringing drugs into our country, if you'll never get parole. And when you're in jail, you are going to pay back to society. What you are saying as ActionSA, Monday to Friday in the cells, for those who are already sentenced, you'll never see them in cells. They'll be working the land to really pay back to society. Prison is not going to be for free for them. And those who are saving life sentence are going to save life sentence. And there's not going to be any chance of a parole, unless you want to appeal and you can prove to the courts otherwise. But just to really get appeal because you are a model prisoner who murdered and raped someone, we as ActionSA, we don't want to give you a second chance. For an example, Thabo Beste, do you think a criminal like that must be brought back into society to come and rape and murder? We have no mercy for such people. We are saying in terms of the economy, we need as ActionSA to liberalize our economic policies, where no union will ever have a say on our economic policy, because we've witnessed over the last 30 years ANC and COSATU destroying businesses, particularly small businesses, with what are called draconian labor laws. We need to free up SMMEs to be able to employ South Africans who want to work. We are sitting with the highest sustainable unemployment rate in the world. Therefore, we have to allow the private sector to be able to employ people. We must encourage them. But at the end of the day, as government, like what is happening right now, if you're running business and you can no longer afford people, it must not really be a nightmare that you must go through CCMAs. All this nonsense must be put aside, so that if you're running business, you are no longer able to afford people. It cannot really be a situation where you are forced, whether you like it or not. Because what happens in a system like that, people don't employ. There's a reason why we have such high unemployment rate in the world. In terms of redress, we are unapologetic as ActionSA that black people needs redress, but not this failed, corrupt, broad-based black economic empowerment of the ANC. We want to introduce our own policy called inclusive policy that will have a fund, an opportunity fund, where businesses will contribute annually to this fund, and this fund must be run and administered by professional people to build schools, fund black businesses, to make sure that businesses in our townships, all these factories that the ANC and COSATU have closed down, let's encourage them. We give them funding at affordable rates. You go and build the infrastructure like proper schools, proper boarding schools, and so forth. So BEE of the ANC, we will bury it on an unmarked grave, so that ordinary South Africans, black people who were previously disadvantaged, must be able to benefit out of this system without having to have political connections. We must take our kids to the best schools, because we want in 30 years' time to have enough engineers, black accountants, lawyers, and so forth. So we will take this money, instead of creating this ANC oligarchs, people who have become billionaires, but they've never sold a potato in their lives. And in the meantime, we are the most unequal society on earth. So we want to take this money, take it into benefiting the majority of South Africans. In terms of the health care, this whole nonsense of NHI, I mean, we really hope that the president doesn't sign it, because if he does, we will take it on constitutionality, because ANC government has destroyed our healthcare system, and now they want to start another corruption, because they will steal this money that they want to really put into this NHI. We are not going to allow this to happen. What we need to build more hospitals, more clinics, capacitate them with professional people running this institution, and let's engage how we can really fund these public hospitals with some of the money coming from this economy that is working. Because you can imagine what we are proposing in terms of the economy. We are saying, just to give you a practical example, so that it's not an ideology. You know, where I was born and raised in Amanskral, Babelech industrial area, in Harankua, where I started Black Like Me in 1985, those factories today, more than 50% of them are closed deliberately by the ANC and COSATU to make people unemployed, so that they depend on them. So we want to reopen these factories so that people have got a dignity of work. We take them out of this grant system and dependency on government. Because one thing that you must appreciate is working is not, yes, it's a means for you to be able to support yourself and your family, but it gives you dignity. It builds families, because when your children see you wake up every morning, go to work, end of the month, you are able to provide for them. You can imagine today, when you have to rely on government to build you this RDP houses built by people who've never built houses in their lives. You don't work, you rely on 350 rent from the ANC government. Tell me, can you really build society? When once you want to also destroy the nation, destroy a family structures, and that's something that the ANC has done, worse than what apartheid really did during apartheid days. So they've deliberately destroyed our families because of their unethical behavior. They behave like people who actually don't care. They are bad role models. They are thieves. They are corrupt. You know, and so forth. So you can imagine. Just to give you an example, how on earth a civilized nation can elect someone involved in rape as a president of the country? 2 occasions. How do you allow someone like Mantashe to really be the minister of a government elected by the people? Someone where she goes around having relationship with our children in school. Our own children, they call them tigers. You know, and this is known. I'm telling you, what kind of nation is this? So these are things that will destroy our families in our country, because if you don't have strong families, there's no way that you can ever have a nation. These are some of the issues that we really propose as ActionSA to ensure that we can have a prosperous nation. But a prosperous nation can only happen when you have the right political leadership to set the scene for the nation.
All right. Mr. Mashaba, one of the things that you are talking about there, it's strong family values, which one can never argue with you because you are, I think, one of the role models when it comes to a lot of black children. You've been married for many years. You got married at the age of 22. And growing up from Haramoti in Hamansgra. But one of the critical things that I want us to talk about, and I think that sometimes you are misunderstood for, in terms of people assuming that you hate foreigners or our foreign national brothers and sisters. Let's talk about our ports of entry, the borders. You are someone that is also known for speaking against illegal migration. In terms of your party, how are you going to deal with our borders that are struggling in terms of infrastructure, and also allegations of corruptions are also linked to what's happening in our borders? So when you govern as ActionSA, what is it that you are going to do in terms of that subject?
You know, things, let me, fortunate enough, I'm on record, including at the time when I first raised this matter in December, on the 1st of December 2016, when I was the mayor of the city of Johannesburg, because that's when I realized that South Africans are silenced. Every time they talk about illegal foreign nationals, then you'll be attacked and people will apologize. And I looked at our constitution. Our constitution is very clear. First of all, there's one thing that we cannot take away. If we're serious about the development of our country, we have to get, South Africa was built at the back of migrants. And that's a policy that we must continue if we are serious about development and prosperity. We've got to encourage people of the world to come and invest in this country, to come and visit this beautiful country, come and live here, bring skills that we don't really have. But they must come here legally, and when they are in South Africa, to respect our laws. What I despise are illegal the people coming into the country to bring criminality. That is something that for us as ActionSA, we are unapologetic about it. We will keep raising it. When we take over government, home affairs is one of the areas we're going to really look into, or those people who came into our country illegally and acquired our South African citizenship in a fraudulent manner. We are going to deal with it. We are going to have special units within our law enforcement agencies to have consequences for South Africans who were part of the scheme of selling and compromising the sovereignty of South Africa. So that is something that those officials working in any of the department, particularly Home Affairs, they must just really pray to the gods that ActionSA is not part of government, because there's going to be consequences. South Africa cannot really be for sale. South Africa cannot be a country where failed governments outsource their problems to us. As I'm talking to you right now, as you're aware, almost 12.5 million of our own people are unemployed, particularly the youth. 60% of our youth have got no work because ANC government destroyed their businesses and also failed to provide them with education, allowing them to really pass with 30%. And what can that person really do in this modern age of development? So there's no way that we are going to allow someone coming from Pakistan to come and open a spaza shop in Haramoti. We don't know how, in the first place, he came into the country. He's got no papers to be in the country. We don't know how he brought in the money. He's dealing with cash. He's not registered with our South African Revenue Services. Under ActionSA, that will never happen. We don't care whether you've been here in South Africa for 20 years, but you've got to explain how you came into this country. How did you bring the money into this country? Are you registered with our revenue services? If not, we are not going to hesitate. Even if you've been here 30 years, we're immediately going to send you back to your country. Don't tell us you've already got children in our country. You can take them with you if you want, but we will never allow criminals in this country.
To your manifesto, as we are speaking now, today, we know that peoples, which is learners in South Africa, are used to collect their school reports. They might be affected by load shedding because some of them, they use machines to print.
Of ANC's corruption. It's not something that happened because of pure mismanagement and so forth. It's got to do with a deep level corruption. This ANC, when they came into government, the first thing that they did, to remember, was the arms deal when South Africa was not at war or facing any threat of any war. So ANC, it's in government. Everything that they see in government, they think it's something that must be stolen, like how they are trying the NHI. ESCOM, you need to put in professional people to run ESCOM, and ESCOM must run on a commercial basis and must compete with the private sector. The private sector must be allowed with immediate effect to set up energy supply bases to compete with ESCOM. And if ESCOM is unable to provide electricity to South Africans at affordable prices, we cannot find people who can manage it. But at the same time, we've got the private sector that can provide electricity at good rates and reliable electricity. Without any doubt, we will immediately free up the energy sector for the private sector to really be the players as well.
Okay, we are speaking about professionals to run ESCOM. At least we have a chairperson now of the board who's a qualified engineer. They've also announced a CEO who's coming in. You're also indicating or also bringing the topic of private sector in ESCOM. Do you think that if we bring private sector in ESCOM, which is a state-owned enterprise, people that cannot afford to buy electricity now would be able to afford the electricity? Because we know for sure that private sector, it's all about business. It's all about profit.
Yes, absolutely. Private sector has got to be about profit, because if they don't make profit, they will go under. I mean, that's what business is all about. That's how nations develop. I can tell you, if I have my way, if you run business and you run it recklessly, that you go under and people lose jobs because of your recklessness, for me, it would really be treated as a criminal act. Business is business. You must go into business to make money, because when you run business, you make money, you will employ people and give them stable jobs. You will pay your taxes to allow us as government to really be able to go and provide the services to a nation. We cannot have businesses of reckless people who every second day they go under. But for businesses to be sustainable, you need ethical government that creates an enabling environment, create an equal opportunity, not equal outcomes. You create an equal opportunity for businesses to play, and ensure that as government educate the people to really understand that the business is about making money. There's absolutely nothing wrong. It's actually encouraged. I encourage our people to be billionaires and trillionaires, because once you can imagine the day when we can produce billionaires, because you're not going to be a billionaire by tenders. You are going to be a billionaire by creating industries. Yeah, and that's something that we need to encourage and cultivate in our nation. We must never really get into a situation where we discourage our people from making money. Our kids must be encouraged to make money, be registered, and make sure that they don't go under. They must stop this nonsense of socialist and communist ideology, because communist and socialist, these are corrupt murderers and rapists. That's all they know. If you want your nation to be prosperous, allow free market, But at the end of the day, you have a government that ensures that any elements of corruption or criminality, there has to really be consequences. That's why you need an ethical government with all the systems in place in the event people break the law. When you have to really pay taxes, you play games by avoiding to pay tax avoidance. There's got to really be consequences. When you recklessly run business, people lose their jobs because you, as the owner, you were reckless. There's got to really be consequences over there. But one thing we must never shy away and be apologetic about encouraging our youth, particularly the Black youth, because the Black youth have been indoctrinated and rightly so by this ideological socialist and communist system, which have never worked anywhere in the world. People will tell you about other countries. Please show me a communist country where you, as Tej, would like to really live in. All human species wants to live in a free democratic free market economies.
Mr. Mashaba, it's very clear from your response that you are an entrepreneur at heart. You are also speaking against some of the ideologies of communism and what is called socialism. And you are also known as an entrepreneur before you became a politician. Do you think that the current president, who's also respected as not just a politician, but also a businessman, whom were empowered in the times whereby I think you also became an entrepreneur 35 years ago or more than 38 years ago, do you think that the current president gives space to Black entrepreneurs to become successful, to prosper in his era? And if not, what is it that you would do as ActionSA, at least to empower Black entrepreneurs, including the white ones that are still not having a chance of being empowered by the current system that we have?
It's the biggest mistake we've made as South Africa. And we've got to stop this, and we've got to stop it now, where we call this oligarchs created by this ANC, triple B, call them business people. You know, we've got to stop this nonsense and calling these people businessmen. These are beneficiaries of the system that has actually created inequality, because we are more unequal today than we were pre-1994. More of our Black people are more poorer. 54% of our people live below the breadline. It is for that reason this opportunity fund is very important and be run on a basis by professional people, so that we can take people from Soweto, from Haramutse, from Kwamashu, take them out of poverty. But to take people out of poverty by providing them with the best education, public education, from ECD centers until they qualify as engineers and so forth, and they start becoming real entrepreneurs, create industries that we can see. Provide public transport, heavily funded by government, so that people must be able to move around. We need to really bring back the trade, the rail network, so that our people must be able to go to work at heavily subsidized transport while we creating. Yet, as government subsidize buses, proper then build train networks that can bring people to. In that way, you will see. That's why our policy of redress, we are committing to run it for 30 years, because we believe in 30 years time. Every township, every village, you will have an accountant, an engineer, or a judge who actually emerged from this type of the communities. And you free up township economy, rural development, because areas like factories like Babelechi, Haranku, Atkwatwa, Umtata, those factories, if you as government are not prepared to subsidize them and you say the market forces must operate, then that government doesn't know what they're doing. You need to encourage people to really be closer to their work. I mean, look at what is happening right now with the ANC government. They've actually taken the apartheid special planning to the next level, not even what HF could ever have imagined. People live in Orange Farm and they work in Midrand. You know how many taxis they've got to cash to get to work? 3 to 4, up to 60% of their meager salaries go towards the public transport, unsafe one for that matter. We used to have trains running between Joburg and Vereeniging. We should have already built them. If you wanted people to live far away from the city centers, should really be having trains running. Look at Soweto, you know, grew up during the apartheid days, literally every month visiting my family in Soweto, taking a train from Amanskral to Pretoria Station, from Pretoria Station I catch a train to Johannesburg. By the time I get to Joburg Park Station, every 5 minutes there's a train going somewhere in Soweto. When I get to Soweto, at a station, there's a Padco bus that would take me to whichever township I wanted to. All that infrastructure is destroyed. Our people are relying purely on taxis, which are very expensive. Yes, but that's the only way people can really be able to move around. But how many people can they really transport? You go to all civilized nations. A few months ago in July, I spent 2 weeks. 1 week in South Korea and 1 week in Japan. It's unbelievable, the public transport system. I don't have to really tell you, you know very well the UK, their public transport system, or you can go to New York City, you know, poor people need a heavily subsidized public transport system to really be able to really go to work. Whereas this communist, these thieves came in and destroyed everything, because that's what the Russians taught them to do, to destroy. And they did it in 30 years. What they learned in 30 years while they were in exile, well, the Russians taught them to destroy in 30 years, because they spent roughly 30 years in exile. And it took them 30 years to actually bring South Africa to its knees.
Mr. Mashaba, I'm just looking at our time, and I also want to release you just to respect our interview, as you have requested that you have another meeting that you are heading to. But before I let you go, you are a former member of a big city like Johannesburg, which is the city of Johannesburg. In terms of governance, in your party, let's talk to that. What are you bringing in our municipalities? We have municipalities that are struggling. Some are under administration. You go to Free State, you go to the Northwest Province, municipalities like Ditsobo, Kamatlosana, it's a struggle. In your experience as a former mayor of a municipality which is big in this country, what are you bringing in terms of governance as ActionSA?
Well, as you are aware, ActionSA was formed in August 2020 and contested in 2021 for the first time. But because of COVID and the timing, we only contested 6 municipalities. And we changed the political landscape in the municipalities in which we contested. But we did not get the majority, but we are a serious player. That is why we ended up actually mobilizing other parties to remove ANC and got the DA to that we run these municipalities with them. But unfortunately, DA is not interested in anything outside the Western Cape. Collapsed these municipalities. People of Johannesburg today, they are running the under ANC EFF compliments of the DA. And in Tshwane, they've had Tshwane since 2016. We've joined with them. it's not easy to work with the DA, but at the same time, we're in a very difficult situation because we can't walk away from this arrangement. Because if we walk away from DA, then immediately we give the government to the ANCA and EFF. That's something that we will not do. So we are trying to really bring ethical leadership and accountability, and also for DA to understand that Black townships also deserve service, like they are failing to do in the Western Cape. The reason, I'm sure you know why I left the DA, because they decided to call me an EFF mayor because I was focusing services to poor communities, and they said, why must I provide services to people who don't pay taxes? So this is what we've got to deal with. So it's a difficult situation because if we pull out of our arrangement with the DA, immediately we give the government to ANC and EFF. I mean, that's a disaster. It's really unfortunate. I'm a citizen of Johannesburg, and you can imagine, you know, for us as a big city, the biggest economy of a city in Africa, not in this thing, run by ANC and EFF. And we have an opportunity tomorrow, if DA is willing to really support us, to take ANC and EFF out. But for some reason, DA prefers ANC and EFF. Why? I cannot explain. Only DA can tell people of Johannesburg why they prefer ANC and EFF.
Mr. Mashaba, I would like to take this moment to thank you so much for spending your time with us. We've heard some of your policies, we've heard your manifesto, and there are key elements that we can take away, at least that you should be known for as the president of ActionSA. But allow me, because I think it's a very critical point, which is also linked to illegal migration, the issue of drugs. Many South Africans are tired of drugs. We've seen even when a channel from MultiChoice fired one of its presenters who was perceived as someone who was dealing with drugs in this country, a lot of South Africans were shocked and surprised by that dismissal. You want to deal with illegal migrants. You are speaking about the issue of employment, especially for South Africans. But I think you can also link the issue of drugs, because at times allegations are that the international foreigners or foreign nationals are the ones that are bringing drugs into our country. How are you going to deal with the issue of drugs as a party, especially that is affecting young people, which is the future of this country?
I can tell you, we will push as ActionSA that the drug cartels, we're going to push for maximum sentence of life sentence, and life, it's life. Not our youth who are the users. So those ones we will temporarily build drug rehab centers. But the real pushes are this international drug syndicates into this country. I can tell you within a year of us taking over, there will be a dedicated unit within the police that deals with drug syndicates, put in professional, dedicated people who will hold accountable. We'll have special courts to make sure that you get caught dealing with drugs, whether you're international or you're a South African. The sentence must happen quickly, so that you can save and go and work the land. Because you are not going to sit in the cells, watch television, and expect us to rehabilitate you. I can tell you, I personally don't have any mercy for people who destroy our nation. Drug dealers, rapists, first-degree murderers, I don't want to give them a second chance. If you are saving life, you are going to save life. And I can tell you, as far as I'm concerned, under ActionSA, Monday to Friday, 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, there won't be anyone in prison walls. They will be working the land, producing as vegetables and so forth, building bridges and so forth, under guard, so that they pay back to society. And those who give us trouble, they will work 7 days a week, so that they learn, so that we send a signal to our youth out there If you want rehabilitation, don't commit crime. And for them not to commit crime, that's why we need to build proper facilities in our townships, villages, and places where our kids have got sporting facilities. We want Bafana to be a shining star. The talent of our football in this country during apartheid, when the apartheid government did not provide facilities to us. We used to play football from school during holidays and so forth. We used to have choirs in our school, music choirs. Our black teachers being music producers of note. You know, we need swimming pools in our townships, and people be proud of those facilities. That is why the principals of schools are not going to be appointed by SATU. SATU will have no say as to who becomes a principal or a teacher in school. We'll bring back school principals to make sure that our kids are properly taught. We'll bring and train psychologists, because I think we've been traumatized by ANC's evil over the last 30 years. ANC, it's a case not only to South Africa, to us as a black race.
All right, that is the founder of ActionSA, who's also the president of it. Mr. Herman Philip Mashaba, let me take this moment to wish you all the best.
Some Philip and yes. Jaime.
Which is Philip.
Yeah.
All right. Mashaba, let me take this moment to thank you for your time, while you also go out there to try and fix our country as ActionSA. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. That is the president and the founder of ActionSA, Dr. Herman Mashaba, who's also known as a businessman. He also spoke about ESCOM, drugs, BBEE, and also illegal immigration that is taking place in our country. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's talk next time. We'll see who we bring in again.